Good day, everybody. How's it going out there? Well, election day is come and gone, and you know what that means? Means we're gonna start talking about the next election. I guess. It just never ends. It just never ends. It just never ends. It just never ends. Why does it never end? Anyway, um, so ran into an interesting article lately and an interesting sort of situation that is where the strange eccentric things of politics and fandom meet, and that there is actually a furry running for office. And what positions does that furry hold? Well, they may surprise you, but probably not. So let's go and take a look at this strange character, written in an article called "In Pursuit of Democracy." Elian Badger brings costumed activism to a serious campaign for U.S. Congress. If I had a nickel for every time I've heard fursuit used in replacement of the word pursuit, I'd at least have a full dollar by now, which obviously is somewhat concerning. But at least it wasn't. At least it was not like. But at least 50 cents of that dollar would be the full phrase, the pursuit of happiness, instead of, as a play on the words pursuit of happiness. So at least they didn't do that. So obviously, you could see that this person is a bit of an eccentric character. They've got a suit, but their suit is adorned with Mary Jane leaves all up and down the thing. So it's got it's mostly green. It's a mostly green suit. But there's like Mary Jane leaves on a black background. They're wearing some sort of cape in probably deep opposition for Ilana Mode. No capes. The capes will get caught on something. They have a very homemade fursuit head. We don't judge. It's like obviously the character. They got like a scrungly badger character with like triangle teeth, and in their mouth is a big old frickin' stogie, to be blunt. And a monocle, also an eye monocle. It's just to add to the repertoire. And a top hat. Oh yes, a top hat with something on it in orange. I can't tell what that is. Their cape also has these weird shoulder pads, which I'll talk about a little bit more later. So yeah, a lot of stuff going on. Very busy. Very very much a trip just looking at the person. So costume activism and fun. So they have a website. It's a very simple website saying like about me and having a platform here. And he goes, so about me, I'm Elon Badger, Samuel Smeltzer, a Michigan Army National Guard veteran, LGBTQIA plus activist and small business owner running to represent Michigan's 7th District. I've experienced the failings of our system firsthand, and I'm running to build a government that finally works for the people, not the billionaires. You deserve higher wages and more free time with your family. My platform. Universal health care. Medicaid for all to ensure no one goes bankrupt from medical bills. End the drug war. Legalize marijuana, expunge records, and invest in communities harmed by prohibition. I mean, who would have guessed? I mean, it would have been weird if like the person wearing the marijuana suit was like, "Hey, I'm pro drug war." Like, I don't know. Unless they were in the take, like making profits off the prohibition or whatever. But even then, it's like they probably would wear a regular suit and not like a suit covered in Mary Jane leaves. That being said, high-speed rail. Build modular elevated rail along highways to connect Americas sustainably. End corruption. Ban insider trading. Overturn Citizens United. And hold politicians accountable. Technically, technically, insider trading is already banned and is already illegal. Just so we're aware. I think I think it's more pushing towards like the whole like Pelosi, like, oh, you work for Congress, you shouldn't be trading, which is a different question entirely. Because like if it is like in that's sort of like the whole thing, and like emphasizing it, insider trading is illegal, and emphasizing that if you are a congressperson, that you probably have information that that the general public's not going to have, which could impact your ability to trade efficiently, more efficiently than the general public can, is a problem, right? And that could be emphasized. That's a bit different than just saying insider trading bad. It's like congressional trading is also sort of bad, and maybe that's what they were going for with that. Let's see what else we got. Technology Bill of Rights: protect data, defend net neutrality, and recognize digital intelligence rights. Now, that one's interesting because I have no idea what digital intelligence rights is. I've never heard that phrase before. Obviously, like data protection and net neutrality are definitely words I have heard. Digital intelligence rights is something I would have to look up a little bit more to understand what that is. Cancel student debt, free public college and trade schools for all Americans, right? Okay. So, I mean, standard, pretty, it's like if a furry had a platform, anti-prohibition, school, yeah, education, yeah, all the checks are there, all the check boxes are there. So not too surprising on the platform. Obviously, like most campaigns, it's all platitude, really no substance. But you can't really fault politicians. Unfortunately, I can't fault a politician for that these days, because it's like literally like we elected a president who said he had a concept of a plan. Like literally, it's like, I don't have a plan, but I have a concept of a plan. And it's like, okay, so we're voting for personalities. And the answer to that question is yes. Yes. And it's how it's always been, and it's only getting worse. So can't really fault a person for just like saying what they feel on things and then letting the voters just kind of decide on that sort of aspect that you show, rather than getting into the details of like, how am I actually going to do all this stuff in Congress? How am I going to write laws that ensure Medicare for all, and who am I going to be working with in order to ensure that? Those kind of details are hashed out usually post-campaign, right? Because why work on something that you're not even voted to do yet? Obviously, would be an uphill fight. As a person who is in the Army National Guard, obviously my biggest hope for Mr. Badger right now is that like a certain person in the White House doesn't decide to try to nationalize the Michigan National Guard to go after like Detroit or something. Though I highly doubt that they would do that. They'd probably just bring in more Texans if that's the case, because I don't think many National Guard folks from Michigan would be too privy for that, or the leadership in Michigan currently would be too privy to that either. And I don't know why they would go after Detroit. Donald Trump would go after Detroit. Detroit's had enough. Like, you don't need to give him more problems. Anyway, so back on the topic at hand. As far as like a platitude, I obviously I like the concept of high-speed rail. Obviously, I always do a tongue-in-cheek joke about, maybe we should get rid of those like Nazis first before we invest in any high-speed rail, if you know what I'm saying. Yeah. Let's do that first. handle that before we handle that. But to be fair, I really do like the idea of high-speed rail and along like the highway areas and stuff like that. It's interesting that the rail sort of does follow 90 a little bit, does follow Interstate 90 a little bit in the northern corridor. But there's like cities that get missed, like that aren't connected by train, long-term train at all. Like I can get to from Buffalo to Chicago pretty easy. Buffalo to Toronto pretty easy. But getting to like cities like, Cincinnati or I can get to actually Cleveland as well. I can't get to like Cincinnati. I can't get to Indianapolis directly. I usually it's like a 2+ hour car ride from the rail to get to those things. And unfortunately, because of the infrastructure, it's always annoying. So I'm all for that. I would really hope that would be something to do. Obviously, insider trading is bad, even when congressional people do it, and even when presidents do it. Even when politicians do it, especially when politicians do it, it's bad. Obviously, I'm for net neutrality and like the and for the protection of data. Obviously, universal healthcare is a big one. I don't disagree with any of this. The one I might disagree with the most might be the student debt one. Now, mitigating student debt as it is might be a good idea, because student debt has gotten too expensive for what the value of an education can actually bring you. And so like I think that college thing is sort of, unfortunately, it's kind of a bubble right now because of how expensive it's getting, and it's like the median income of a person who has a college education versus a non-college education, I don't think is wide enough anymore to really account for a lot of people wanting to go to college, which is a problem for the college industry, obviously. But having like, should the government subsidize higher education? I mean, sure. I mean, that'd be fine, but should it be done based on everybody gets free college, or and doesn't want to get into the workspace quite yet, and are just using it to kind of delay adulthood? Or should it be the subsidies should be warranted towards merit and educational merit, sort of like a scholarship kind of a thing, where it's like this student has really pushed themselves into like studying and actually like puts his nose into the book and gets things done and learns things really well. Wouldn't it be better to subsidize somebody like that versus somebody who's barely making a C grade in high school on all their classes? And clearly if they go into college, it's like they've shown that they might not take studying as seriously, because unfortunately that's something that it's like we are all footing the bill for this. And wouldn't we want the best and the brightest to sort of have people who have shown that they're going to take the dedication to take the time to like actually get into the studies, to get them money, to get them further. Because I mean, as far as like student debt goes, I'll say this: one of the big reasons that healthcare, in my opinion, is so expensive is because our student debts are so high. And like obviously to become a doctor, you have to be, it's like at least 8 years in college at the very least. So it could get really expensive for the person to become a doctor. And so because it's expensive to become a doctor, they expect to get paid a lot. And because of that leverage and that time leverage that they have over like a regular person who just went to high school and like is making a regular paycheck, like that expectation and expenses is a lot lower for a person, so they could get away with a little less of a paycheck. But then those are the people that are going to get sick. Like the masses are the people that are going to get sick. So there's going to be a power discrepancy, at least in the financial terms, of a doctor versus hundreds and hundreds of working class folks who get sick and need a doctor. And I think that's sort of where like this whole problem comes into play. And so like I think lowering the cost of education for people in those fields and subsidizing it in some way can help alleviate the costs of healthcare in and of itself. And so like I think that saying free college for everyone it opens the door a little bit to people who will take advantage of it. Like, hey, you could go to Trump University, right? It's free college for everyone. Now, obviously, I think that's why, he said that community college and trade school should be free. But like, what if Donald Trump was like, hey, this my Trump association is a trade school. You're learning the trades, right? It's like IIT Technical Institute and things like that. Very much like these historical things where, there's this education money that the government is willing to pay for, or willing to subsidize, but not really, because our current system is that the government gives you a loan and you have to pay back that loan that you can't just charge into bankruptcy court. So basically you're a slave to the government. If you choose to pursue higher education with a governmental loan, you're a slave to the government until you pay that government loan back, in essence, right? Because slavery is illegal for everyone else, but for the government it's fine. It always has been. But that's philosophy and other things. But basically that's the idea, is that the problem is that you can't, to me, that the college thing to me has to be the most carefully defined, because there are people who take advantage of free money, quote unquote free money, of the government paying people. So you got to make sure that you're defining it as like community colleges that are raised in that are dealt with by the community, or state universities, not private institutions. Like Harvard should not be subsidized. Somebody going to Harvard or Yale should not be getting the government backing and covering their education costs, right? Those private institutions should still be private and should still be paid to enter, versus like colleges and things like that. And that was one of the things I did back when I was in college, was arguing with what was called NIPERG at the time. They went to Albany to argue certain things, and one of the things was college education expenses and like don't raise tuition. The argument that I had made after like doing the research and doing the things, and obviously everyone else who's just there probably to get away from college and go out there and explore and experience activism, instead of actually like getting into the technical details, because you're talking to a congressperson. You should read up and like look at some research and look up things. So one of the things I found was like the tuition rates increases should, like, there was the expectation was this amount according to the thing, but it was only for private institutions. Public institutions should not be raising at the same rates, right? And it's like, you shouldn't be raising the rates as fast as like because they're public institutions. It's a state college, right? Like, the government should not be looking to close off the door of education. They should be looking to open it as much as possible. So they should do whatever they can to keep the costs low, and maybe subsidize it a bit, right? So there is nuance to it, and I think that's probably, to me, the most nuance of the thing. To me, it's like any drug war, like marijuana is, to me, a harm. It's been proven to be a mostly harmless drug, far less harmful than alcohol. So if alcohol is a legal substance, why can't marijuana be that? Even though I don't partake myself, and yeah, all the people that using that leaf as a means of political leverage is never good. And like, yeah, I agree with all that. I agree with you try to push towards universal health care to get government involved much more with closing up the loopholes and all the different mess that has been made of our healthcare system, to try to simplify it as much as possible, to try to get to try to remove exploitation that private insurance companies have over the system. I would agree with that. High-speed rail, absolutely agree with that. As I said, like there's certain highways that the rail kind of follows already. I think the 90 corridor has like a good like Amtrak run, but like I would like to see some of the offshoots also get some things as well. Technology bill, yeah, everything else is good. Anyways, those are my opinions on that, and I wish him well. I wish him well in his endeavor of becoming an elected badger to that district. I don't know what his competition is going to be next year, but we'll see. So that's going to be in next year's voting. Is going to be next November. November of 2026 is when that election would happen for that congressional, because congressional things happen on even numbered years. And they're a congressperson is elected every 2 years. So hopefully they get very good. If he gets the job, hopefully he gets very good at campaigning, because he has to do it every 2 years. Senators do it every 6. Presidents do it every 4. It's weird numbers for some reason. Anyways, thank you guys very much for watching. Kick that like, kick the subscribe button, kick a comment in the comment section, and let me know what you think about the. It's not the boozy badger; it's the high badger. Every vice has a badger in this fandom. I don't know what to tell you. Every single one. I wonder if there's like a pride badger and a sloth badger. Oh no, you know what that means? Not the lost badger. No.